Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Cat's Track. Thank you for subscribing, liking, and sharing with your friends. Today's episode is with my friend, Gair Maxwell. Gair was born in Moncton, New Brunswick on October 31st, 1961. Happy pre-birthday, Gair.
Scary
Besides,
thought, that birthday, wasn't it?
it's also my sister's birthday. We call her Witchy Poo birthday.
There we go.
Happy birthday, my friend. Besides his loved ones, Gair is extremely passionate about the Pittsburgh Steelers, historical biographies, and their 3 dogs. So nice. Friends, you'll find his full bio attached. Gair, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, it's my pleasure, and I have no idea, Kat, where this is going, so you just lead away.
Awesome. Okay, well, I'll surprise you then.
Absolutely.
Yeah. What's been your greatest challenge or challenges in the last few months?
We are swamped with more business than we can handle, and it feels a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? I think they've got a psychological phrase for it called survivor's guilt.
Huh.
Like you kind of, it's like this. It's like you look around, you see the business landscape, you see so much hardship, and when good things are happening to you constantly, you feel a little funny about it. So I just want to kind of address that, Kat, and also speak to, we're plugged into one of the world's largest CEO peer advisory groups, and suddenly our message these last few years has become extremely relevant since COVID, which is you've got to really create a powerful video-based storytelling presence in the online world. So that's the focus of a program and a forthcoming book called Big Little Legends. And so
Huh.
what we teach is how everyday leaders build irresistible brands, and to create a brand that is truly irresistible. In other words, make the customer and make the talent come to you. You've got to have stories, and now more than ever, captured on video that make people want to reach out.
Wow, I love it. And you're so right. Our world changed and it's good. This is going to stick.
This is not going away. And just before we hopped on this call, I just did a 5-hour session with executives and business leaders and CEOs out in Eugene, Oregon, and they're all coming to grips with it. Some of these are pretty significant B2B type operations. And we can't send a sales force across North America on these things called airplanes and put them in rental cars after they leave the airport and go check into hotels and then have that face-to-face appointment with the decision maker on a 6-figure, 7-figure deal. We can't do that as much anymore. So how do we actually make a connection unless it's through platforms like YouTube, like Facebook video, like all these wonderful Zoom platforms? That's really the stark reality is starting to hit, that, oh, this isn't going away anytime soon. And that even if we could travel, we might not want to in terms of how to create connection. So in our view, Kat, and we're like, we've been on this for quite some time now, quite a few years, and suddenly it's like, we were the ones, the canaries in the coal mine from 5-6 years ago saying this was coming. And then
Yeah.
what's happened is COVID has accelerated it. A friend of mine said that one of the great things about COVID is 1 week of COVID with respect to change and learning curves. 1 week of COVID is probably equal to like 3 to 6 months of the old world in
Oh,
terms of
yeah.
how fast things are moving. So
100%.
our biggest challenge now is we're spinning plates and juggling balls like never before. So we're on to Zoom Studio 3.0 to try and be, more relevant in a virtual world.
I love it. Well, I love your studio. It's super cool.
Oh, I appreciate that. Thank you. Dana gets all the credit. It was her vision. She's the daughter of, he was a handyman and a contractor. And so she picked out, the type of backdrop we needed from the Home Depot. And there was some child labor involved. She got her daughter down to paint all the different, these backdrops. And then, little by little, all these pieces came together, and voila, here we are. And I already know, however, we're going to be conceptualizing very soon what does 4.0 look like, and we're only 7 months into this.
Yeah.
That gives you some idea. It was a pretty slapped together ramshackle studio in late March, early April, and then was 2.0, and then here we are to 3.0. But I think it's indicative of how fast this thing is moving.
I love it. Hey, I got a question for you.
Sure.
Are you going to put yourself into a 3D avatar?
That I don't know, but I was talking to a friend of mine the other day from Austin, Texas, who was offering this insight that we are headed to a place where virtual reality is going to play a part in this.
For sure.
Right. And we have a client actually in Madison, Wisconsin, that's in the gaming industry, that's also giving us some insights in terms of, in other words, what we're doing now, it's not going to be that long before we look at these Zoom calls as, this generation's version of dial-up.
That's right.
That's how fast this thing's going to move. So will there be different virtual reality elements that we all got to get used to? Probably. In all likelihood, yes. And we got to be ready for that.
Agreed.
We as business leaders have to be ready for that.
Are you a follower of Peter Diamandis?
Are you talking about the guy who wrote Bold?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Like Peter did illustrate something years ago. I'm looking around to see if I have I've got bookshelves on either. What was that song? Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right.
To the right.
Yeah, right. I've got.
Here I am.
I'm stuck in the middle, but hold on a second, Catherine. Look at this. Sorry, it was right there. It was too impossible to ignore.
Awesome.
You mean this, Peter?
Peter Diamandis.
Yeah. So, how to go big, create wealth, impact the world. And basically what Peter and Stephen Kotler, his co-author, were talking about and this is, what year was this? I've had this, I know, for a little while. How do you know Peter, by the way?
Well, I'm a follower. I get his weekly newsletter, and this last week's newsletter was all about how we're going to have 3D avatars right now, like today.
Yeah. The copyright on this is 2015.
Yeah.
But what's being talked about in this type of publication is very relevant and very, shall we say, Peter accurately, I think, predicted a lot of what was transpiring. And I think COVID has really accelerated that, especially for small to medium-sized businesses.
Yeah, for sure.
The big ones are going to be okay. I'm not that worried about Amazon. Like Jeff's going to be okay.
No
right.
kidding.
So anyone who was thinking about pitching in to help out Jeff, don't worry. He's okay. The Apple guys, I think they're going to be okay. And probably the Google guys too. But there's a whole bunch of others.
The rest of us.
in competing in small to medium sized type of spaces, anywhere from whether it's 10 million to $1 billion in annual revenues that are probably not as secure as, let's say, Jeff or Zucks or some of the other ones.
No kidding. Well said, my friend. And how about the 3 things that you want to share with the audience today?
So anyone watching today, I've got 3 things under one umbrella. And the umbrella is digital fluency. I coined this expression about 10 days in to the COVID situation. And because I'm a big history buff, and I thought, where has this happened before in history? Do you remember, if you go back into your memory banks and think of the shock and awe of the first, 2 weeks of COVID, and how many times did we hear the word unprecedented?
Yes.
Right? Like that was a big word for about 2 or 3 weeks. And I went into, okay, where's this happened before? And near as I could figure out, this was exactly what Franklin Delano Roosevelt walked into as the new president, 1933, taking over America at the height of the Great Depression. It was unprecedented, and he had no idea how to navigate through that. And that's where I look to as a bit of a source for where in history have leaders responded to these unprecedented, extraordinary events? And I kind of drew on the inspiration of Roosevelt. And then I realized, oh, this is all about digital fluency. And here's what I mean by that. Digital fluency and your three things are the things that under that umbrella are absolute musts now in every single business model moving forward. You must be digitally fluent in terms of your delivery and your fulfillment. So whatever it is you're going to deliver as a product, as a service, as an area of expertise, do you have the ability digitally to get that product, service, expertise to an end user? So like I say, Jeff and his gang from Amazon are doing very well. They're still showing up at our door with their products, right? And so they're doing great at that. But also you look at how robust did many restaurants get with digital in the wake of COVID with respect to things like Uber Eats and DoorDash and Skip the Dishes and the rest of it. So everything has to be somehow aligned digitally with your delivery and fulfillment to your end user, your customer. Great. Your internal operations, same thing. You can't just have things, sitting there in the Penske file or on a sticky note anymore. Like, things better be coordinated internally, digitally, with cross-functional calendars and all these different things, because as soon as there's hiccups internally, what happens in terms of end users? They suffer,
For
right?
sure.
For sure. So like, I always think of the doctor's offices
Yeah.
as something you can look at visually, and you can see it as every time how many times have you walked into the doctor's office and the secretary's there, and what's behind the secretary? These big like cases and file folders. And I look at that now in the wake of COVID, and I think that's like looking at the hieroglyphics on the Egyptian caves. That's how old that is.
Yeah.
If everything's not systemized internally with a single click, and to be honest, that's what we're working on right now, really hard, how to systemize internal operations. And number three, your marketing.
Yeah.
Everything to do with your marketing, and by extension, your brand and your reputation, must be digitally fluent. Because how are they going to find you?
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to attract new customers, widen your audience? So there's an expression from Gary Vaynerchuk from many years ago, whether you like it or not, you're a media company first and you're a fill in the blank company second. So when I saw your website and I saw all these conversations you were having with top-notch Canadians, I saw right away, Kat is running a media company that happens to do business development. Because you're producing at an astonishing rate, outrageously consistent, relevant content and relevant conversations with people who are dealing with things right now. So if I'd say for three things, make sure delivery, fulfillment, internal operations, which allow you to systemize and scale, and your marketing had better be digitally fluent. And that way people can find you and also do the marketing for you. I have found, Kat, a lot of people would really love it. Like, they would just so love it if the customer would do the marketing for them.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm going to say, great. And that's one of the things I teach. Well, you've got to provide the content on this thing called a phone in a video that people would be willing and love to share.
Yeah.
So I think those are the three things that are most relevant moving forward.
I knew you'd be perfect at this. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm just delighted you asked.
Oh my God, yes. Now, what about your legacy, good news, or anything you want to close with?
Oh, you want to wrap it up already? I
No,
thought
we
you
don't
wanted
have to.
I thought you wanted to get into the deep kind of personal side. We would go
Oh, sure.
explore
Yeah.
maybe existential angst or some of the inner demons, or I thought we were going to go all the way down into a quasi Dr. Phil. And to really know everything that's happening here, I already mentioned Dana, and she and I are partners in business, life, and crime. What a lot of people don't know is this: we have one of the best organizations, and they are very nimble and they are very fluent as regards to everything with respect to COVID. And I want you to meet. This is Theodore, and Theodore is our director of security. Okay, you don't mess with him. And then we've got Sophie,
Oh,
another cocker spaniel, and she's director of inspiration, because
aw,
you need that force that provides that motivation, right?
yep,
That's what FDR did back in the Depression years. You know, the only thing we have to fear is fear
fear
itself.
itself.
Right, and then we've got Maggie. She's the Beagle Mix Rescue, and she's director of Black Ops. So anything that's involving stealth, counterintelligence, things that, bodies or socks or mittens that need to be buried, or bones, she's all over it. And she does know out in the backyard where the bones are buried. So I thought this would be very helpful if you were looking and probing in a 60 minutes fashion, like Diane Sawyer. Like, this is really what's behind all this.
And you couldn't do without them.
No, oh no, 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 no. And if something, now they're off right now on assignment, okay?
Oh,
But if something happens, I always explain to my Zoom audiences that if something happens where Bezos and his gang, knock on the door with another parcel and they spring into action, everyone knows they're just doing their job. They're just doing their job.
get out of their way.
Hey, they're being paid with room and board to take care of these matters.
That's right. Two important clients.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys are awesome. Oh my gosh, Gair, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, it's my pleasure, and you caught me on a great day too, because I would be remiss if I did not mention and bring it up by chance, in case some of your viewers weren't aware, that as of this recording, the Pittsburgh Steelers are in fact 5-0, best start since 1979, when they won their fourth Super Bowl with Terry Bradshaw launching that missile to John Stallworth. Not that we're, keeping track of these things, but just so you know, we're very aware of what's going on here in London, Ontario, with respect to the fortunes of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So on that note, Catherine, thank you so much. And this was fun.
And adieu, my dear friend Gair. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Everyone, that was Gair Maxwell. Oh my goodness. Check out their amazing practice. Amazing individual, and what a great team. Thanks for joining us on Cat's Track, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day.